Happy Monday night, everybody. Happy Labor Day. Happy September. Where did that come from? Happy semifinals of Battle Superfluous. What are you drinking? Take a sip. That is a Christmas Sam Adams, because what time is it? What time of the year is it? Does that even matter in this battle? Welcome. You recognize the giraffe behind me here. That's Gandalf. I'm Paul Carganilla, your host for the BS. This is the first ever Battle Superfluous tournament. 8 teams have entered, only 3 remain, and only 1 will emerge victorious as Battle Superfluous World Champions. Tonight's battle pits the yellow team versus the purple team. They will be debating the topic drawn 1 week ago, which is, it would be more fun to spend a weekend in the past versus the future. Joe won the secret Facebook advantage for the yellow team, and they opted to support this side, arguing that it would be more fun to spend a weekend in the past. So purple will be supporting it would be more fun to spend a weekend in the future. That's right. The winner of tonight's battle will move on to the final battle, where they will face the green team, and they will fight for one of these. And they will be the first team ever, the first 3 players ever to grab one of these statues of these 2 men awkwardly trying to shove each other away. That's the Battle Superfluous version of an Oscar. The winner tonight is determined, as always, by a best of 3 verdict count. We have 2 guest judges sitting in with us this evening, and the final verdict goes to you, the viewer at home. You have a week here in the semifinals. You have until September 8th, 7 p.m. to log on to Facebook, go to our Facebook page, cast your vote by commenting on the link to this video, yellow or purple. If the judges' votes are split, it will be the winner of the Facebook vote that determines who moves on to the final round. And that's how it all shakes down. We are going to begin tonight by introducing our judges for this battle number 6. Here, we're going to start with Peter. Peter, thank you for joining us. What are you drinking?
I am drinking the amazing rum chata. I don't know if you've heard of this delightful invention, but it combines horchata with rum, and I am drinking it out of my Yahoo mustache mug here from Oktoberfest.
Actually, what will earn your vote this evening?
I am looking for the best use of logic, creativity, and wit. And by wit, I mean both meanings of wit.
Thank you, Peter. And our other guest judge tonight is Raya Myers. Raya is a professional actress. Of course, you've probably seen her on the hit web series Winners. What are you looking for from our players tonight?
I'm looking for the question that was asked to be answered clearly.
That is a perfect answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will introduce our players. Now, we all met them in the first round, but it never hurts to go back and review. I'm going to start with the yellow team. The boot for the yellow team is Joe Koch. He's an independent film writer, actor, producer. The sword for the yellow team, Brandy Finmark, couldn't make it tonight, so that position will be filled in by our regular Wildcard Lifeguard, the Groot, Danny Grooters. He looks like he's ready for battle. The hammer for the yellow team is Alan Meck. Alan is a lawyer. He's also a regulatory analyst for the state of California. He's a badass. That's our yellow team. The purple team boot is Angelina Sark, our actress, singer, dancer, stunt ninja. The purple team sword is Kathrynn Cobbs. She's our actress and entertainment guru. And the purple hammer is Christopher Padilla. He's a full-time student, member of the U.S. Navy Reserve. Thank you for being here. And our wildcard lifeguard tonight, since it's usually Daniel, but he's actually playing, is he was the sword for the gray team who got knocked out in the last semifinal battle. He's Tyler Cole. We will begin the battle old school style. No twists, no turns. Here we go. Starting with the first kickoff round.
Well, thanks, Paul. The question is, what would be more fun? To spend a weekend in the past or the future? This has a simple answer, really. The key word is being fun. It would be exponentially more fun to be able to spend a weekend in the past than the future. In the past, you know exactly what you are getting. You can do those little things to make that weekend even more fun. For instance, if you go back and enjoy your wedding weekend, that family vacation, or any other event in which you've already had fun, imagine how much more fun it would be a second time, knowing what you know today. Imagine being able to relive your favorite moments in life, your first kiss, the first time you said I love you, your child taking his first steps. Knowing what you know now, you would be able to capture those moments, whether on video or picture, and not miss out, because the first time around you didn't know what was going to happen. Choosing a weekend in the past, knowing what you know now, will always be more fun. At the time when you and your family, friends, or loved ones were having a great time, perhaps you didn't take the time to appreciate the significance of that moment. Now you can go back and relive it and take the time to enjoy it that much more. As for the future is full of unknown. You have no idea what would happen on the date chosen in the future. You could pick a weekend 12 months from now, only to arrive at a world completely changed by war, natural events, or even worse. You could pick a weekend that was a family tragedy, a catastrophic event in your life. There would be nothing fun about that. And since it's the future, it is completely unknown what events you would encounter. If you think you could go far into the future and experience getting to see something you would never see in your normal life, you could be seriously wrong. You have no idea what it is you're getting. A nuclear winter, a planet devastated by an asteroid, a zombie apocalypse, a world full of technology you can't use. For instance, in the movie Demolition Man, Sylvester Stallone's character wakes up from cryogenic freezing in a world where he can't even wipe his ass. I mean, imagine having to spend an entire weekend walking around with a shitty ass. I mean, there would be nothing fun about that at all. So in closing, being able to relive an event in your life that was already fun would be that much more fun.
Thank you, Joe. Very nice. But first of all, Joe, I totally forgot to ask you, and I saw it over there, that yellow bottle. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a beautiful yellow beer that was brewed in the past.
I'm drinking some of Trader Joe's Bubbly Finest water. I put it in a wine glass because it makes me feel fancy, and it keeps me hydrated for the future. I personally am someone who thinks that fun can be full of adventure. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? None of us really do. I'm not even thinking tomorrow as the future. I'm thinking maybe a little bit farther. I also enjoy movies. Nothing wrong with them. I think they're fun and enjoyable. And some of my favorite ones that show what could be possible in the future are things I'm looking forward to. Now, The Rocketeer is a movie that technically takes place in the past, but I loved it as a kid because the idea of flying individually was amazing. The thought of being able to do that is completely mind-boggling. I would love a weekend to be able to fly around the world. I mean, who wouldn't? That also brings me to another idea of flying. The hovercraft. People, please tell me you've seen Back to the Future. It's not called Back to the Past, it's called Back to the Future because it's awesome. In that movie, there were hovercrafts. I mean, you could have cool technology like Tony Stark. Yes, the idea that that computer doesn't exist now, true. But in just a few years, we could have computers like that. You could be Iron Man. You don't know. You could spend an entire weekend as Iron Man. How fun would that be? Plus, in the future, traveling could be so much easier. Maybe you have a teleportation system. Maybe you can just fly like the Rocketeer. It doesn't matter. Imagine the things you could see in those. I'm going to assume it's a 4-day weekend because let's be honest, 3 days just aren't long enough. So let's say it's a 4-day weekend. All the places you could go, all the things that you could see, with all the conveniences we have now, plus some, you could really spend your weekend having a ton of fun. Also, the future inventions that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I made a list. I'm super excited. I would love to see how TV comes a long way. I loved Willy Wonka. To be able to have Wonka vision, kick ass. Number 2, music. What if it could actually sound like it's happening all around you? I'm a huge music fan. That would be amazingly fun to spend a weekend doing that. Movies, again, what if 3D was a little step up? Could be scary for some, but I definitely think it's worth trying. What if Winners could be done in 3D? Just imagine how cool that would be. And my last favorite thing, What about the Snuggie? I just have to know what happens in the future. You have no idea. It could stay around, it could go away, but no matter what happens with our global warming or such, it will keep you warm, and it will be awesome. So in closing, I would like to say the future is uncertain, but so is that day in the past. You may not know everything about it. And I would like to believe that the future is an awesome, fun, and adventureful place that I would personally like to see. Thanks.
I'm drinking smart water and some cider. Let me just tell you, there's a reason why I'm wearing this helmet. It's to portray the fact that in the future, it will be all-out war, okay? I don't want to be going and trying to have some fun while people are getting bombed, zombies are chewing my neck, and there's some creepy chicks that look like Miley Cyrus freaking running around singing horrible songs. The past is where it's at. I can think of nothing better than sitting back, drinking some brews, me and Winston Churchill, hanging out, having a ghost masturbate together, chilling, just reliving the moments. There is nothing good that's coming in the future. I can see the future sometimes, and it's lame. There's nothing fun to be had. Now listen, if you want to go into the future with a DeLorean, which was kind of a crappy car in the first place, other than the sweet stuff that the DeLorean had, as far as the metal on the sides and whatnot, which was kind of cool in the day, but it's still a cool car in the past. But if you want to go to the future with him and hang out with Doc, there was all kinds of problems with that anyways. What comes down to is the past is where it's at, because everybody in the future is going to be playing Beatles songs because that's apparently what everybody likes anyways. Everybody wants to play Beatles songs. They don't want to play new songs. They're just like, oh, I got my inspiration for the Beatles. And they play some music that's halfway good. And then everybody's like, well, that was sweet. It reminds me of the Beatles. So why don't you go hang out with the Beatles? And not that I like them, but I'm just saying I heard some people did. And then you can go hang out with Frank Sinatra and play some tunes and kill some people, and then tell your people in the future about it, because they're going to be like, dang, I wish I hung out with you in the past, because that's where it was at. They're not going to be like, oh, come out in the future, have some hovercraft. They're going to be like, man, I sure wish I was with you, killing people with Frank Sinatra and the Beatles and having a ghost / Churchill moment. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the past is better.
All right, I'm just going to start right now. You said if you say the future will be all-out war, all right, you say the future will be all-out war. The past is full of all-out war. World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Iraq. So you're telling me that you want to go back to the past and have fun during wartime? Here's another thing with that. Okay, so if you're female, a different race, a different sexual orientation, you're most likely headed back somewhere in the past that's no good for you at all. Where are you going to stumble around? Where are you going to end up? Probably not a good place for you to be, especially if you're a woman. No rights, no nothing, caveman era, no clothes, no indoor plumbing. We live in the most convenient time possible right now, and I'm not just talking about technology. Obviously, that's a good part of it, too. Think about 10, 15 years ago where you had to actually memorize people's phone number. A Thomas guide, for one. Who's seen a Thomas guide in the last 5 years? Nobody. Google Maps, even though it's kind of crappy, you all use Google Maps. You don't even know how to get home without Waze. I'm just saying, go back to the past 10, 15 years, you're going to be thumbing through some kind of paper map like, where am I? I'm lost. Well, I'm just going to Uber. Oh, I can't Uber because I don't have a smartphone. All right, so not only that, but indoor plumbing. All right, let's talk about that modern convenience. What somebody said a second ago, that you'd be walking around with like a poopy pants because they went to the future and they didn't have a toilet. Yeah, living in the past without indoor plumbing, poopy all the time. How about that? Buckets that you have to, like get rid of later. Does that sound like a fun time to you? Doesn't sound like a fun time to me at all. At least in the future, it's unpredictable. It could be fun. Who knows? In the past, you might totally ruin everything that happened in your past. Your son's first step, what if you knocked him over and he never had it? Never walked again? You totally screwed up your entire future by going back to the past.
So the problem with the argument of the future is that it is unknown. We consistently go back to, it would be great if there was Wonka Vision or 3D, or there was a world that didn't actually exist. With today's threats, it is likely that the world could end in 20, 30 years, we don't know, and that's the problem. You won't know what you're going to get on the weekend you choose that date. Whereas in the past, I'm not going to go back 100 years where there's no plumbing or women can't vote or whatever. I'm going back to my life. I want to go back 30 years or 20 years where I can have that family vacation that was just so much fun that I will never have again. So when it comes to going back, it's about choosing those moments in life that were great for you. You don't need to go back beyond your own life where life was crazy, but we're talking about things you've already lived. So you would know exactly what you're getting, and you wouldn't get lost without a map because you've already been there. You will know exactly where you're going and what's happening, and you'll be able to make it that much more fun.
No, I get it. For some people, doing the same old may be fun. So I get going back to your own history might be cool. But the thing about history is that you kind of remember the highlights reel. Like, you remember the cool times, but you don't necessarily remember all the crap that came along with it. So let's go to history. There were some cool times, but there were also some inconveniences and some things like going in outhouses, no indoor plumbing, things being difficult to get to, sickness, way more inequality than we have now. So let's hope that that gets worked on in the future. And I don't know about you, but there are some awesome times in my past. But if I had to go to the past, I think there are some things there I wouldn't want as well. I mean, puberty sucks. I've spent my entire life trying to get to the point that I am now, and I love it. But all that work to get here, there's some great moments. But can you really pick a perfect weekend where nothing happened that you would have changed? Because you're going back to relive it. So I love my life now. I want to take it to the future. I want to see what happens. I want to see what's going to be out there. But if you like the same old, there are people who like that every day. My question is what's more fun, and I'm taking it to the future.
I'm not actually a beer drinker, but this was left in my house by a friend. I'm told it's good. Boont Amber Ale. So.
Is that a dinosaur on the can?
It is a bear moose. It's a moose bear pig.
So that might be actually a futuristic animal.
Yes, maybe.
We won't even talk about that.
That's scary.
I'm going to set you and your moose, bear, antelope free for your 2-minute romp now.
Right. Okay, so first of all, just going as a general statement, the future is really uncertain and probably crappy for a couple of reasons. First of all, remember global warming is happening and it gets worse as time goes on. Secondly, there's going to be a new space race. Now that we've figured out that there's a Higgs boson particle, the next step is how to manufacture and harness the power of that. And so there's going to be a new arms race for wormhole technology or some other like super powerful weapon that can destroy galaxies. All of that makes the future really bad. So going over Angelina's arguments, first of all, there'd be cool gadgets in the future. Well, it depends how far you go into the future, because if you just went into tomorrow, then there aren't really any cooler gadgets, right? You have to go far into the future. And the point is, the farther you go into the future, the more you introduce those things which are going to make the future actually worse. So actually, the cooler you make the future, the worse you make the future, because there's going to be all these things that actually make it really bad. You say that music and movies are going to be cooler. Actually, it's going to be like you damn kids syndrome, like times 100, right? I can imagine your grandparents listening to the music you hear now, and they hate that because there's only like 40 years separation or whatever between the two. Like, imagine that times 1,000 when you go into the future. So that's just done. Kathrynn, the past is full of war. Here's the cool thing, though. We have Wikipedia and history books. You can choose where in the past you want to go to, and you can choose a weekend where there are no wars that you have to deal with. You can hang out with whoever, and wars be damned. So you can dodge them. You go into the future, who knows what you get. Second, minorities have no rights in the past. Yes, but here's the cool thing. Again, you can choose where you go in the past. So this only limits your options, but it doesn't eliminate them. So, for example, Mary Magdalene got to follow Jesus around. You could go and do that, and it's not like women don't have rights there. You could go and kick it with Jesus for a weekend. Isn't that awesome? Or you could go and hang out with, like, Einstein or whoever. Like, there's so many different things. You get to live retro, and that's why it's cool. Who cares if there's no technology?
I am drinking some awesome Jack Daniel's Tennessee honey that was brewed in the past to be enjoyed in the future. Okay, so I've been sitting here, been listening to all the arguments, and all I got to say is that, you could just wrap up all the arguments about going back to the past. They all make about as much sense as a screen door on a battleship, right? Talk to the experts. Brian Greene, Carl Sagan, Michio Kaku, Stephen Hawking and Einstein, and more Stephen Hawking. The future's better. The future is awesome. There's so many potential realities that we could have that we can create for ourselves with the new technology and advances and things that we're finding. Now, I'm going to go back. Joe, you were saying that you want to go back, relive your wedding day. You know what? That's kind of the definition of depression. That's why people get to the past and they realize they will never be that awesome again. Well, I'm going to be more awesome in the future. That's why I'm doing everything that I'm doing right now. Daniel, you said the DeLorean was a crappy car. I agree, but it was also made in the 1980s. Maybe if that was made in the future, we'd have a much better car than a DeLorean. And Alan, you're a lawyer. You didn't go to law school to make yourself better in the past. You spent all that time studying, going to law school to make your future better. And, I'm also going to bring up Wikipedia. Like, if you use Wikipedia to look in the past, you might end up at ground zero or maybe some horrible beheading during the French Revolution. Not something I would like to be a part of. Angelina, on my team, she said that she would one day like to see an Iron Man outfit. Well, Angelina, guess what? Right now, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency is working on just that, an exoskeleton for soldiers in the future that you could run faster and jump higher with. Kathrynn, you made the point that we could ruin the future by going back in the past. That's another thing that I would like to say to Joe. You go back to your wedding day, you might ruin things so bad that if you have a good relationship now, you could ruin that, and you can get divorced the next day. So, Bart Simpson went back in time. Homer went back in time. Michael J. Fox went back in time. They all ruined the past.
We have an awesome sponsor next week, the ZoobTube. Check them out already. I'm already pimping them. But there was no sponsor this week, so I just want to say, guys, take a shorter shower. That's all.
Okay, so I'm thinking that if you think the best of your life is in the past, if you keep wanting to go back there, then what's the point of living for the future? Just give up. The best has already happened. Find a way to go back. Call it a day. If you want a future, get up tomorrow, make it better. If you want to see the future, go there. Have a good time. Have fun. If you're convinced the best fun's already happened, what's the point?
There's no guarantee for the
most awesome time is that you think. I mean, if it's your life, then you can go back there. If it's farther in the past and you want to kick it with Isaac Newton or something, then do that. Like,
you realize that Isaac Newton was seriously persecuted. So was Jesus. Einstein got his ass kicked. I mean, these are people who are cool now. They were people before their time. So
that
before,
just makes them more interesting to talk to.
You can also pick the times they're being persecuted. You can pick the times, like at the Last Supper when Jesus was like, "Hey, you want some bread?" And you'd be like, "Yeah."
Wow, that might be the most depressing dinner to ever take part in.
Next day? That next day sucked.
But then you could come back and be like, "I was there, man. He came back. Jesus came back and talked to me. He may have died, but he came back."
Yeah, that's a really rough 3-day weekend to go to. I probably wouldn't pick that one. I mean, it'd be awesome, but
they came back.
The real problem is we don't know. We don't know what the future.
2 days. You see Jesus die, but you don't get to see him come back to life.
We're talking about the future. You don't know exactly what's actually going to happen. I mean, we talk about, okay, you go in the past and you're going to have consequences. That's not the question. The question is what is going to be more fun. And you don't know. You could pick tomorrow and you get in a fatal car accident. There's nothing fun about that. We're talking about what would be more fun, and that's picking something you already know that happened.
So are you saying that you don't want the future because you're afraid of it? Because I think you should just stop now then. I mean, personally, I want to see what the future has.
I absolutely want to see the future, but we're talking about what would be more fun.
There's no guarantees to the future. You could go to the future and be like, I guarantee there's probably a good chance that there's a replicator machine that can make me sweet smoothies every second that I want a smoothie. But you don't know for sure because you go to the future. It's possible that accidentally the future machines aren't as cool as you thought they were, and they're making you smoothie poo. And now you're drinking a smoothie full of poo. And you should have said, I wish I was back at my wedding instead of the future.
Hey, can I address an argument before we move on? I feel like this was brought up quite a lot, the idea that you go back in the past and screw up the past. I just want to address that because it's kind of important. So I drew out, I don't know if you can see it here, but so assume that you're like at point A here today. Like if you go back in the past to point B and like you live a weekend point C and then like you screw something up and you get to point D where everyone's dead and that sucks. Well, the thing is we're assuming an alternate reality where we can move wherever we want in the space-time continuum. So there's nothing preventing you from going back to point B, living at point C, and then going back to point A. Like, you can do that.
I'm pretty sure I saw Back to the Future 2, and that was on the chalkboard.
Okay, so would it be more fun to go spend a weekend in the future or spend a weekend in the past? Okay, looking in the future, I could think of a million different possibilities, as we all can. Some of them good, some of them probably bad. But the main point is, what are we going to have? Every single day we're advancing technology, okay? Things are getting exponentially better every single year. I would much rather be flying around on a jetpack or an interstellar thing than on a horse-drawn carriage. The past is just boring. The future is better than the past. The future is better than the past. The future is better than the past. I yield back my time.
I just think that it comes down to this basic point. Like, in order to get all these cool things that people are talking about that are the benefits of going into the future, like hoverboards and everything else, like, all that cool technology only comes if you go really far into the future, like 50 years or 100 years into the future. And that starts to bite the criticism that we've laid down, which is the farther you go into the future, the more uncertainty you introduce, the more that global warming is going to take place, the more likelihood that there will have started a space race for, like, wormhole weapons or whatever. And all of that just makes the future worse. So the more you make the future better, the more you actually make it worse. Whereas the past, you know exactly what you're getting because you can look it up in a history book and you can be like, I'll bet that weekend was really awesome, and go kick it with these great, excellent people from history. That's, for me, I'm a nerd, so I would want to go back in history and, like, kick it with, like, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci, you know, or like Michelangelo, these kind of guys. And that to me would just be awesome, and you know what you're getting.
Well, the idea of which one's more fun, the past or the future. Well, if you go to the past, you could collect something in the past. Let's say you go back 200 years or so. You could collect a disease 200 years ago and bring it to the present where it no longer exists, and therefore will be the destruction of mankind. I'm just saying. Now, however, if you go into the future, you can see how bleak it really is, how bad it's really gotten, and then realize where you can change it in the present time. So you can actually do more good going forward, bringing that information back, because you have 3 days to collect information, versus going way back, catching the bubonic plague, bringing it back, killing all mankind. You can't come back from that. But in the future, gather data, come back, change that future. So every valid argument of you can't, the future is terrible, apes will own everything and apes with guns will shoot people, doesn't work because you can change that today.
I think I'm going to ask the same question to both teams, but I'll start with yellow. I'm going to ask Daniel to please describe the most fun day that you would have if you had the opportunity to go anywhere in the past.
So the most fun that I would ever have, I believe, would be my wedding day, to tell you the truth. I can think of no other time in my life, present, future, or other, that I have been happier or more sane and more clear-headed than the day that I married my wife. And I could think of a million things that I could do in the future that would never come close to touching that moment when I said I do, and knew that for the rest of my life I was going to be stuck to this beautiful person and I could never get rid of her for the rest of my life. So that was the moment, and that's why the past would be better, because there's nothing that will ever top that. I love you, Jamie Grooters. I'm getting action tonight!
All right, thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to ask the same question to Kathrynn on the purple team. What would your most fun day in the future look like if you could go anywhere in the future?
I work in theme park design, so if I were to go into the future, just knowing all the different kinds of innovation that are starting to appear in different theme parks, like trackless ride vehicles and 4D experiences, I would want to go visit Disneyland in the future and see how that technology has changed the park, because let's face it, like, Disneyland isn't going anywhere. So I want to see how it's changed and how it's made the past better in the future.
I noticed a lot of arguments hinged on you being able to choose when you get to go to the future or the past. So my question is for Alan. Assuming that you don't get to choose, you just know you're going to the future or the past, what is your argument for the past being better?
So you're saying you could land in any random weekend in the past versus any random weekend in the future?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, in the future, I mean, on a cosmic timescale, it is certain that the Earth will be destroyed at some point, and the time between now and when the Earth gets destroyed, and the time between when it gets destroyed and like the universe ends is just infinitely larger. Like, if that makes sense. So the time between now and when the Earth dies, and the time between when the Earth dies and the universe finally ends, like, there's a much greater likelihood that you land at some point in that future, and that would suck, because that means that you basically just land in space and you suffocate and die, and then you get another 2 days of just floating around in space debris. That, to me, is really bad. Versus the past, like, at least you're likely to land somewhere on Earth where there's breathable air, you know, and there's only, what, 14 billion years worth of possibilities that you could land in. That's the best I got. It's a really difficult question to quantify. There's a lot of randomness in it.
Okay, yeah, so then to make it fair, because that's a difficult question, I'll direct it at Angelina also. If you can't choose, if you don't know specifically if you can see the Iron Man guy or whatever, what's your argument for the future being better?
I would say that going along with Alan's argument, there's nothing to say that you would necessarily pick a time that would happen when the Earth existed. You could pick a time far beyond on either spectrum, before the Earth existed or way after the universe has died. I can only go off of existing human time and know that the past has brought us to this point where we're constantly evolving and getting better. My only hope for the future, and hope for fun, I guess, which is the question, is that we continue to evolve and find a way to save our planet, to do all these great things with hopefully potential technology, because we know what the past holds and we've tried to move forward from that, so I can only hope that the future would be better. I'm willing to take that risk.
That was our semifinal round between yellow and purple. It's up to you. Well, it's up to our judges, and then you on Facebook. Hang out at facebook.com/BattleSuperfluous. Comment on the link to this video, purple or yellow, and tell us who will be in the final battle.